So I decided to make a skeleton of a polar bear, in a sculptural impression of the skeleton of a polar bear in bronze, and sink that into a tank of water and freeze it into a block. So, and then bring this here to Copenhagen and carve it into a bear. So on Saturday morning early, we carved this block into a polar bear around the skeleton. You couldn't see the skeleton. So this ended up as a nice bear, but in fact it's not a sculpture of a polar bear, really. It's in polar bear form. But in fact it's a sculpture of the Arctic, the problem in the north. And it's not even that. It's a sculpture about the whole climate change issue. It just happens to be using that iconic polar bear as a sign.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to interrupt you there. We've actually got an image, a film of that, you actually constructing that on Inside COP15, so our viewers can watch that as well. So I actually just wanted then, in that case, just to ask all of you, what are your hopes for the next 2 weeks? What do you hope is going to be achieved, and what do you think the sort of limitations are? Yeah, start with Martin.
Well, I'm hoping that we get some deal that is binding and as efficient as we possibly can do it, as ambitious as we possibly can do it. And the yardstick, the meter stick for this will always be how many more climate feedbacks are we triggering? How can we limit the impact on Earth, on all of us? Are we really thinking we can do this with 2 degrees, 3 degrees, 4 degrees? Can we live with this? Or can we live with something that is lower than that, involving more money, involving more commitment, and then avoid those changes that we are not yet fully aware of how bad they are going to be. So it has to be as ambitious as possible because it has to act on the basis of nature.
And I mean, is it ambitious so far? Are you seeing that sort of ambition? It's only day one, but what do you think?
We're hearing about the ambition. And what I'd really like to see out of this Copenhagen session is the demonstration of political leadership, real political leadership. It's going to take courage for political leaders to look beyond their own national interests, look beyond their election terms, look beyond this narrow view, look at what the science is telling us, and look at what the implications are. They have an immense burden of responsibility on their shoulders. So they can either leave us with a legacy of hope, or they can leave us with a legacy of despair. They have the choice. And this is what we'd like to see. Leadership from our political decision makers, and that we do come out with a fair, ambitious, and binding agreement that can prevent us from all the things that you've just heard Martin saying. And for us in the developing world, we are going to be most vulnerable to those impacts. And so it is up to all our political leaders to understand that and act decisively.
And Mark, you yourself are actually outside the negotiations. You're on sort of the events and art side. What's your hope for the future? What do you think the artists are going to achieve?
I think art is a language that is incredibly strong. All the talking I've been doing with the scientists, which I've been doing a lot recently, they all say that my ice bear fits their science like a glove, which is very encouraging for me, because I just want to make sure the message I put out is absolutely correct, because it's such an important issue to get out. My aim here is really to talk to the people, everyone out there. I want them to come and touch the bear in whatever shape or form they do. If they touch the bear, they touch the Arctic, they touch the climate change issue, they begin to understand it. And if they can begin to understand it, they will be part of the solution. So that really is to reach out far, not just here in Copenhagen. I want this bear to go further, much further, through Canada, through the States, through Europe, through Asia. If we can get hands across the world touching the bear, touching the Arctic, touching the world problem, taking it into their hearts, that will be a big thumbs up from me as a sculptor. That's my aim. If I die with that as my only achievement, I'll die happy.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
But I guess there's a pattern here that you see. You know, we are trying to move on the issue on several fronts, and we all know that we have to make this working on several streams and talk to different groups of people. It is not only the COP negotiation teams and the delegates that have to hear it. It is also the people. I had climate skeptics in the tent today. You know, they are still around, even in Copenhagen, trying to do this. But the point is, the messaging out there, the speaking to people and bringing across that this is something that affects them and therefore has to be dealt with now, has to come on different streams. And so far, this, what Mark just said, is actually a really important issue. If some more people go away saying, I have understood this now, on whatever road has been necessary to make that happen, that is an achievement. And it will, in the end, feed into the Copenhagen process or whatever is left of that after December.
Yeah. Martin's a wonderful scientist. And, you know, science papers are amazing. Hard to read for the vast majority of us. Science papers are very hard to read for the vast majority of us. Dare I say, however good the science paper is, there's a danger of falling in your soup. But if you can say the same messages through art, you can just multiply the number of people you're talking to with precisely the right message by 1,000 times over. This art, sculpture, is a language with no international boundaries. If art and science can join and talk with a united voice, it's not bad.
Tasneem, what do you think? Do you think that the science is getting in the way of the human impact, the human response? What do you think?
Well, look, I think that it's exciting to hear the initiative around using art and other creative forms to, in fact, bring across the message. Because many people, myself included, the science might be very exciting, and I'm very happy that Martin is very good at it, but it can get really technical for ordinary people. And we need all kinds of avenues to get the message across. It's a real problem, and if we have increasing awareness about this amongst the world's population, the better for us. Just in terms of, firstly, individual lifestyle changes, it will have an impact on them, but also for them to put pressure on their leaders as well. If they're more conscious, they will know that they must force and hold their leaders accountable. That's the thing. But I think that we have a very exciting opportunity to see science at the center of creativity, of politics, and in this situation, it is critical that the science is the center.
Absolutely.
So we're very happy that you're sitting in the center.
I can only echo
well.
that. And if we want to dwell on this a little bit, it is actually not that long ago that scientists thought they had a role to play. It is not that long ago that many scientists would step forward and bring these issues actually one step further, bridging the gap between the ever-evolving science and policy. That is a rather new phenomenon. Yes. And until recently, the scientists would say, no, this is not my job. But then, mostly because there was nobody else doing that job with credibility, that gap was also abused by those people who said, I know the science, I tell you where to go, making this a subject of interests rather than science. Scientists are coming across and making themselves heard. And I think that the whole Copenhagen process over the last several years, starting from IPCC and actually motivated also by the time that has passed since the last IPCC assessment was done, scientists came forward and took this seriously, learned to communicate as I'm trying, and toning down the voice of science for the proper words for policymakers to understand.
Excellent. Unfortunately, that is all we've got time for. So I just want to say thank you so much to our special guests, Tasneem Essop and Martin Sommerkorn from WWF, and Mark Coreth, artist and sculptor. We'll be back tomorrow for a live show at the same time, so we will see you then.